House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy joins me now in studio. Thank you, sir, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You are officially running for Speaker as of this afternoon. So, as Speaker, what would you do differently than John Boehner?
Well, as Speaker, the Speaker sets the culture. And the culture in Washington has to change. You know, we've been governing by crisis. And there's too many people in Washington who care about power institutions and don't care about making a difference in the lives of the average American. Look, it's not going to be easy to change this culture, and it won't happen overnight, but that's my mission. You
heard the soundbite from Speaker Boehner this weekend on the Sunday show saying that he described some conservatives in the House Republican caucus as false prophets. Is he right?
Look, I believe in Reagan's 11th commandment. I believe we are a team. I believe everybody has a right to be part of the team. I'm not the manager, I'm the team captain. So we're all a part of it, and everybody has an opportunity to help change. We just have to come together and work in the same direction. We're going to start that tomorrow night with a conference, laying out our agenda.
How did Speaker Boehner fail?
Well, my job isn't to understand what Boehner did right or Boehner did wrong. He's a decent man. He fought and won 2 majorities for Republicans. He's passed a lot of great legislation. He felt there was a time to depart, but it's a time to change the culture. You know, I'm sensitive to what I'm hearing outside the Beltway. I want us to be closer to who we represent. I want the people to begin to feel again that this is their government, that they are in charge and that we serve them.
Here's how the Washington Post wrote it up today. Chris Saliza. It's virtually certain that McCarthy or anyone else who succeeds Boehner will eventually find him or herself caught between the so-called establishment and Tea Party wings of the Republican Party. He goes on to reference Heritage Action, which came out. Today's announcement when Boehner said he was going to step down is a sign that the voice of the American people is breaking through in Washington, they said in the statement. Now it's time for a principled conservative leader to emerge. Simpler, we got Boehner's scalp and we're going to hang it up on the wall as a warning to the rest of you. So if you win, I guess is the question, how do you avoid becoming exactly what John Boehner was, which was eventually pushed out by his right flank?
You change the culture, you bring people together, you set an agenda that drives people. And that agenda has got to change the lives of everyday American. The other thing that's quite different that I see from the perspective is we got to unite. We're in some of the worst times we've ever been in. We see the challenges around the world. We see the challenges economically. We need to stop governing by crisis and start solving problems. We need to fight, but we need to fight to win.
Okay, we just announced that the Senate is moving forward with this clean continuing resolution that is going to fund Planned Parenthood, at least for the short term. We asked people on Twitter to write in, and one of them, GeoBeast1, writes in, how far will he go to defund Planned Parenthood?
Well, you know what? They should not be getting taxpayers' money. You're going to see an enrollment correction, but more importantly, you're going to see a select committee. When people in this country ask why Hillary's numbers have dropped because people don't trust her, why don't they trust her? Because what the select committee in Benghazi found out she was doing. What if we're able to have a select committee in Planned Parenthood and America is able to find out what Planned Parenthood has been doing? Let's fight, but let's make sure we pick the fights to win.
So Speaker Boehner has already signaled that he's going to bring up this clean CR, even if it requires Democratic votes, and push that through. There are other things that are very controversial in the conservative caucus. The debt ceiling increase, transportation bill, the Ex-Im Bank, which you voted against. Hot button issues. If he brings all of that up in October, is that a problem for you?
Well, it could be a problem for the country, but what you want to do, I don't think a highway bill being brought up is a problem. I think that's finding a solution, because you know what? We could put a Republican solution to that where we get tax reform as well. That's a big coalition. And a debt ceiling. What if we're able to get something that changes the direction that brings the debt down? Because in our own budget that will go in balance in 10 years, you had to approve the debt ceiling a few more times. Ex-Im, that has failed now, and it should stay failed. I fought hard for that, and I'll continue to fight. Government should not have to be funding it. Government should become effective, efficient, and accountable. That's the culture and the mission I'm fighting for.
If you push through what you want to push through, you still obviously have to deal with a Republican Senate where there is a Democratic bloc to a lot of it. And it's going to be that same frustration that likely a lot of things will fail in the Senate because of the votes there, and you don't have a Republican president. So how do you fight the continual spin of frustration that some of those rank-and-file conservatives will obviously feel.
You know, there's going to become a generational change here. And that younger generation, a lot of them I recruited that have now gone over to the Senate. I think we're going to see a change with an idea within the Senate. Make the power of the idea win at the end of the day. I disagree with why they let 60 be the number in the Senate and not a simple majority. But you know what? If our bills are strong enough, we will get them through. Now, I fundamentally disagree with this president, but we should have a contrast with him. Because if this country wants to turn around, we've got to change the behavior and the culture of Washington. And that's my mission.
How do you handle the issue of immigration? You come from a district that is 35% or more Latino. How do you deal with that issue as if you become Speaker?
Well, we deal with it the way we need to. We need to secure our borders. You know, one of the greatest strengths we have as America is the rule of law. If you break the rule of law, you'll break down society. So why don't we secure our borders first, change the fundamentals of immigration? You know, half of everyone that's here illegally came here legally on a visa. So why wouldn't we solve the visa program? There are so many different ways that we can change where now it's a luck of the lottery and it's chain migration, you bring your whole family. I think there's an ability to make an immigration system that works. Because America is more than a place, it is an idea. It's an idea that individuals can govern themselves. And we want America to continue to grow, but we want a system that's actually safe.
Do you think when Speaker Boehner negotiated with the White House and President Obama on the grand bargain on entitlements, taxes, that was ever real? Do you think that, would you have pursued as vigorously as John Boehner did the possibility of that compromise, knowing what you know about the White House?
You know, I don't think this White House can ever come to an agreement. But I will work with anyone who wants to work. Why don't you try to be able to solve a problem? Now, I'm not going to raise taxes because we know that doesn't work. But if we don't deal with entitlements and get reform, we've got some reform this year, $2.9 trillion. But we need to build more to be able to save this country.
You know there's skepticism in some conservative circles and definitely on talk radio about you, about your voting history. They had a problem with Speaker Boehner too. What do you think? Is compromise a good thing in this town or a bad thing?
You know, the system is created that you can't get 100% of what you want. I think that's probably good. And I think we could find a compromise. I want to find the most conservative solution I can get into law and come back the next day with what I'm not able to. Look, I'm a little different. I'm not an attorney. I don't have a poli-sci degree. I started my first business when I was 18, and I learned something as that small businessman. You're the first one to work, you're the last one to leave, and you're the last one to be paid. So I want somebody in Washington who's looking out for me. Those are the values I'll keep and fight for.
Last thing, will the government shut down in December now? Is this just a punt to another fiscal cliff?
No, we've got to stop these. You know, people look to Republicans, but we were doing our work. It was Schumer and Reid who said in the summer that they wanted to shut down government, that they devised a whole plan not to let the appropriation process pass. We need to join together, not just in our ideas, but in a media plan. So those in America need to join with us. If we are to be successful, we need to be able to fight and win. Those are the ideas we need to bring.
Can you get the votes to win the Speaker?
I believe we can. A lot of people have counted me out before, but I think if we work hard, we'll be able to do it.
Mr. Leader, thanks for the time tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me.